Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, government ministers infuriate the public, ignoring their own restrictions designed to stop the spread of the deadly coronavirus. A new social responsibility campaign makes it so that no one has any excuse not to wear a mask. And ILTV takes a trip back in time 5 generations, seeing the full modern history of fine wine in the Holy Land. Lockdowns across the country on the horizon, and coronavirus infections spiking more and more every day, turning Israel into a warning story. Yet leadership is not only seemingly dragging its feet in response. The health minister himself is actively ignoring his own restrictions. Catching fire from the public, Health Minister Yuli Edelstein is now trying to avoid public fury after attending a birthday party for his wife in violation of gathering size restrictions he himself announced. The move reminding Israelis of his predecessor's hypocrisy. Former Health Minister Yaakov Litzman having contracted COVID-19 by also breaking his own regulations. But Edelstein taking to social media, trying to explain his way out through a technicality, tweeting, "Sorry to disappoint the fake news writers, but the event was in the open, where events could be held at the time, according to regulations. A 20-person restriction on such events did not exist, so everything was done according to regulations." The public not buying it, though, still noting that Edelstein announced the new regulations just hours before, and that they were set to go into effect just hours after the party started. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin getting in on the criticisms, calling for the formation of a central state body to respond to coronavirus with a clear doctrine, echoing warnings by senior health official Professor Sigal Setetsky, who just resigned over the lack of clear government direction or action. Meanwhile, new daily infection rates remain at over 1,000. The total active cases in Israel hitting over 15,200, 118 in serious condition, and the death toll rising to 346. Jerusalem Affairs Minister Rafi Peretz now also becoming the latest government official to enter quarantine after a member of his office contracted the virus. Yet the health ministry has delayed recommendations for new targeted lockdowns until today, finally coming out with a suggested list of closures, including partial to full closures in 9 cities in Israel. The cities are Bnei Brak, Jerusalem, Bet Shemesh, Ashdod, Ra'anana, Ramle, Lod, Kiryat Malachi, and Modi'in Ilit, though the final decision has yet to be made. Instead, health officials are trying to ease pressures on the healthcare system, reportedly planning to reduce COVID testing by tightening criteria for getting a test, and cutting follow-ups for those testing positive in favor of simply increasing quarantine from 2 weeks to 4. Finally, failing to meet deadline, the government is delaying the release of financial aid for workers and businesses hurt most by the ongoing closures, despite assurances by Finance Minister Israel Katz and Prime Minister Netanyahu that the money would be dispensed within 48 hours of Monday's new restrictions. Israeli singer Chemi Rudner, in response, launching a protest against paying taxes until proper support is issued. Rudner calling on all Israelis to do the same, saying, quote, "Maybe then, at the end of the day, something will change here." Now, it's going to be a long time with this pandemic before things go back to normal. We don't even really know what the new normal is going to look like. But an Israeli company called Aid Genomics is helping us get there faster with a new test for COVID-19 that can be processed in only about 45 minutes. In fact, the company claims that the test can revitalize the tourism industry while preventing the collapse of the healthcare system. Joining us with the details is Aid Genomics' Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Yitzhak Haviv. Doctor, thanks for being with us. Now, you offer a kit that offers a quick and easy solution to detect the coronavirus. But how is your test different from those that are already on the market?
Really, it was components of the same procedure as the normal test were interrogated specifically for the speed of performance. And in every step of the way, there are faster and slower ways. Usually, the faster ways will also compromise the results. So we combined the speed measurement with the robustness. The other aspect of the development was simplicity of use. But otherwise to that, the kit is composed of a standard reverse transcription quantitative PCR, just like the clinical labs perform, specifically in Israel, 26,000 today.
Wow. So how soon can your tests be on the market? And did you get FDA approval?
We're in the process of preparing the filing, and because of the EUA, that means a number of weeks, probably more than a month, but a number of weeks until we have that prepared and finished.
All right, now who can use this kit? I know you mentioned ease of use. Can it really help, the industries that are currently disabled as well to get back to business?
So, although initially it was prepared for airports and for border controls, we are in also negotiation with soccer teams, with movie industry,
Wow.
a lot of multi-participant events or employment sites are interested. Of course, tourism is the first and foremost, such as the navies, the ships for tourism.
Wow. All right, now, my final question, I kind of want to go backwards a little bit. I understand that you've actually already been collaborating regularly with the Israeli Health Ministry, providing thousands of tests and accessories for tests for COVID-19. What can you tell us about this partnership?
So we are in joint venture with BGI, which is a Chinese company of next generation sequencing, and they were the ones who identified the COVID-19 genome and offered the first kit. Not the first in the world, but we, as their partners, could employ it here in Israel. It started with a gift, and then from increasing number of kits being purchased, we saw quickly that the infrastructure in Israel is not apt for the number of suspected cases, and assisted in implementing this technology also in the infrastructure and accessories. Specifically, we provided to 6 laboratories of the HMOs in Israel, Clalit, Mouchedet, Leumit, and Maccabi.
So you're really spreading it out there and making sure that everything was available. All right, Dr.
I would
Haviv,
say 14,000 of the tests today were performed in sites that we implemented.
All right, Dr. Haviv, thank you so much for the important work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wear a mask, save a life. Such is the new mantra being touted in a new Israeli campaign aimed at promoting social responsibility. Take a look.
Don't give us any excuses.
If I can do it,
if I can put on a mask,
And I can put on a mask, so can you.
so can you.
so can you.
So can you.
Initiated by the teamwork of Israeli Army veteran turned Paralympic gold medalist Noam Gershoni and ad maker Stephen Miller, the video clearly speaks for itself. There's no excuse amidst the ongoing global pandemic. Wear a mask to stop the spread of the virus and possibly save a life. Major conflict in the coalition is erupting from an unlikely source. Top cabinet officials across the spectrum now condemning Prime Minister Netanyahu for nearly killing the long-fought-for unity government overnight. Trouble in paradise brewing between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and right-wing ultra-Orthodox Shas party head Aryeh Deri. Interior Minister Deri reportedly angrily hanging up on the premier over a Likud-sponsored proposal to establish a Knesset committee aimed at investigating alleged conflicts of interests among Supreme Court judges. Deri apparently yelling at Netanyahu, blasting him for nearly collapsing the government just 2 months into its term, adding that the nation has bigger fish to fry with nearly 1 million people unemployed. The proposal, which failed to gain momentum, could have potentially led to the end of the current coalition and subsequently new elections had it passed. Under the terms of the Netanyahu-Gantz unity government's formation, neither side is supposed to promote such controversial legislation without joint consent. But this Likud-led bill is harshly opposed by Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party. Joining us now with more on the conflict in the Knesset, Mark Shulman, columnist for Newsweek and the editor of HistoryCentral.com. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. Now, first, break it down for us. What are the specifics of this proposal that the Prime Minister's Likud party is promoting that just failed to pass.
Okay, this was a bill that was presented by Smotrich from the Yamina party, and the bill would begin a parliamentary investigation on the potential conflict of interests among the Supreme Court justices. Now, it was an attempt to sort of pressure the Supreme Court justices, in the midst of all the issue of judicial activism that the right wing claims, and of course the trial of Prime Minister Netanyahu coming up. Now, Netanyahu promised not to pass such measures. That was part of the agreement with the Blue and White, and Blue and White went into the coalition partially to stop any sort of measures that would weaken the judiciary. So that's what this whole thing was all about, and it created a big tempest in the Knesset yesterday with let's put it this way, the heat was very high amongst the various, between the Blue and White and Likud, and of course Smotrich, who did this all to create controversy at the time. It's one of those issues that 99% of Israelis couldn't care less about right now, but it was a political maneuver. It was an attempt to weaken Blue and White a little bit as well. It backfired because in the end the law failed to pass.
All right. Well, oddly enough, members within the coalition, like you said, Interior Minister Aryeh Deri from the religious Shas party, and many from alternate Prime Minister Benny Gantz's Blue and White party were the biggest opponents to this proposal. Members of the opposition, meanwhile, seem to make up the brunt of those who were favoring the measure. Why is that?
Okay, it's complicated. First of all, it was not approved as a coalition measure, so the coalition divided in half. Aryeh Deri was the most angry about it because he saw this as an attempt to break up the coalition, and he himself had given his personal guarantee that the Likud and Netanyahu wouldn't try to break up the coalition, and he was very, very angry at Netanyahu for even trying such a maneuver. The opposition was divided. I mean, the Yamina was the ones who started this. The Yamina is very much anti-judiciary. In the end, both the Arab parties as well as Yair Lapid's party all voted against it as well and made sure it would not pass because, again, this was against judiciary. And Yair Lapid's party, as well as even the Arab parties, are very much in favor of a strong judiciary as a sort of method of holding the government into with some sort of responsibility.
So it's not maybe that members of the opposition, including, for example, the Yamina party, were they also trying to kill the coalition, knowing that this would create?
Yes, they're trying to create as much controversy as possible. Look, the Yamina is trying to show that they're further right-wing than the Likud, and one of the things that the very much right-wing activists, it's a small percentage of people who care about this, one of their strong points is that the judiciary is too activist and the judges are too left-wing. Now, of course, this is after many, many years when Ayelet Shaked was responsible for helping pick judges, and no one thinks that the new judges that have been picked have been particularly right-wing, but they certainly follow the law. And that's a problem often, as we've seen in places where people are trying to impose stronger government, the stronger government, quote-unquote, versus the law that exists.
All right. Mark, this is, as you said, I'm glad you were here to shed some light on this because this is a really complicated, weird mix-up going on in the Knesset between the different parties. But thank you for your insights.
My pleasure.
Now, we all know that investing in real estate is one of the most preferred ways to build wealth and equity. But if you decide to invest in Israeli real estate, you should know the differences in the types of investments that you're looking at. That way, you can really define yourself as an investor. So to help, we invited Eyal Katz, founder and owner of the Skyview, to the studio. Thank you so much for being here, Eyal. But what do you mean by defining yourself as an investor?
First of all, pleasure being here again. Thank you. There's a few types of investments, but before I get into it, I want to tell people what they need to look for before they get themselves into an investment. Okay, the first thing, check the property tax. We can take the same flat, and we have two different customers. They're going to have different property tax on the same property. It depends if you're Israeli resident, if you're a non-Israeli resident, if this is your only flat, or maybe this is your second flat. And the property tax can go between 0%, 3.5%, 8%, and even go up to 10%. Wow. So if you have 8 or 10% property tax, that changes the whole deal. Second thing, do you need a mortgage? And if you do need a mortgage, is the bank willing to give you that mortgage? And if he is willing to give it to you, in what interest is going to give you that loan? The third thing, check if there's a tel hashbacha. And if there is a tel hashbacha, projection levy.
Projection? Okay.
Yeah, projection levy. So who's going to pay it? Is the owner going to pay it? Do you need to pay it? Maybe it's 50-50. So check those things out before getting into an investment.
All right, so what types of investors do you meet then?
In most cases, we meet three types of investors. The first one is looking to do a flip. He wants to buy the flat below market prices, renovate, and then sell it for profit. He's looking to do that between 1 to 2 years from the day he bought it. The second kind of investors I meet is people who look for entrance. They know which city they want to buy the flat, and now it doesn't really matter which street, if it's on Ben Yehuda or Even Gvirol Street, or if it's the first floor or third floor. They're looking the best return on money they can have, the best interest. And the third type is people that looking to invest in developing neighborhoods. Let's take, for example, downtown Haifa or Neve Sha'anan, Tel Aviv.
Sure.
So that's like the three types of investors I meet.
All right, now you mentioned cities and regions that are good for investment. Why are these places like Neve Sha'anan and Tel Aviv considered, particularly hot?
I can tell you, first of all, it's not easy to invest in developing neighborhoods. It's risky. And I can tell you, 13 years ago, I did a tour in downtown Haifa. You can see buildings, 4 floors buildings, prices around $150,000. You can buy the whole building.
Wow.
Today, in that price, you can buy maybe a 50-meter flat.
Right.
Neve Sha'anan, 12, 13 years ago, people will beg you to buy their flat. Today, you won't find a decent property for sale in that area. And if you do, prices are really high.
Wow. All right. Well, it sounds like you gave us some tips here to know what you're looking for before you and do your research before you invest. Eyal, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, for this next story, strap in, grab some popcorn and a nice big glass because we want to take you back across multiple generations for a look at the history of one of Israel's oldest running wineries. Take a look.
Oh my winery heavens. The ground that I'm walking on is not inside your average winery. This plot of land belongs to Israel's most famous winemaking family, the Tepperbergs, and their story dates back some 150 years.
This is Shiki Rauchberger, Tepperberg's chief winemaker.
Shiki, you've worked in famous wine regions around the world. What does it mean to you to work for the Tepperbergs?
The fact that Tepperberg Winery is the Israeli first family winery meant a lot for me. Tepperberg family has a deep-rooted understanding about winemaking, incredible heritage, contains with inspiration of the generation before. And here, now, we are growing new varieties, philosophy, by building on their roots.
It's not hard to see why this stunning winery is one of the points of pride in the town of Meva Horon. It sits perched in the Ayalon Valley, just underneath the Judean mountains, an area rich in biblical history.
250 metres above sea level, bordering the Binyamin region, Tepperberg's Meva Horon vineyard sits in the valley, famous for one of Joshua's battles in the Old Testament. But the soil is not only steeped in ancient history, it's made ever more rich when coupled with the environment.
It is beautiful summertime in Israel. How does the climate lend itself to the quality of the wine?
Well, we have a great example over here. We are at the Marcelan vineyard. It's quite new variety. It came from southern part of France, and it's make a beautiful wines.
From north to south, Tepperberg grows its fruit at 10 major locations across the country, allowing Shiki to harmonise the grape with the best conditions for their growth.
For example, we are growing our Cape Franc or Petit Verdot in the top of the mountains of the Judean hills. In Bordeaux, those varieties are added to the blend even very, very small percentage. We have a little bit of chutzpah to create a full 100% variety, Petit Verdot or Cape Franc with top
And without
quality.
chutzpah, it's not Israeli wine, right?
Absolutely.
And from little things, big things grow. So let's go back in time and see how the magic got started some 5 generations ago. This is Motti, the great-grandson of Abraham Tepperberg and 5th generation owner of the brand.
קראו לו אברהם טפרברג, הוא הגיע מאודוסה, הגיע לארץ ישראל, בגלל כל מיני תהליכים שהיו צריכים לגייס לצבא את החיילים היהודים, וידעו שאם הוא יתגייס לצבא, אז הוא לא יחזור כיהודי. לכן הבריחו אותו, והוא ברח לארץ ישראל, והוא רכש קרקע בעיר העתיקה, וב-1870 הבן שלו, זאב זיידה טפרברג, הקים את היקב הראשון בעיר העתיקה. אחריו מרדכי שמעון ב-1915 בנה את היקב ברוממה בירושלים. ממחנה יהודה אבי עבר למוצא ב-1964, ושם המשיך את המסורת, ואני הצטרפתי אל אבי ב-1976.
Wow, what a production. The evolution of this family's winemaking can be seen in this room here.
2,000 French oak barrels sit inside this room at Tepperberg's newest grounds on Kibbutz Tzora, and winemaking has certainly come a long way since 1870.
The wine is being stored in this beautifully romantic French oak barrels. What kind of an impact is that having on the taste of the wine?
Why talk about it? Let's taste it.
That's exactly why I asked,
All
to
right.
get a taste.
All right. So the wine reminds me when he's young, a young child. You know, he is a little bit noisy, energetic, and the wine, when he is mature in the oak barrels, he's really becoming to be more round, enjoyable product, and the evolution of the wine in the barrels is the maturing phase of it.
Well, let's have a taste. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Cheers.
Tepperberg's extensive range boasts some 30 varieties, all of which have a delicate taste for Israeli and American palates.
So what does it mean to you then to continue your great-grandfather's legacy?
זו זכות גדולה, אני מאושר. אחרי 5 דורות, שאני יכול לזכות להמשיך את החזון של הדור הראשון, זה עושה לי אושר גדול.
So if you could bring Abraham here into this room today, what would you be most proud to show him that his descendants have created?
הייתי אומר לו, אברהם טפרברג, אני שמח ומאושר שהצלחתי להמשיך את החזון שלך אחרי 5 דורות, והייתי אומר לו שהחזון שלו יתקיים, וזה כולי גאווה, ואין עתיד בלי עבר. ושאני בורא ובונה את כל הסדרות האלה על כל דור ודור, עם הלגאסי, עם האסנס, עם האינספייר, עם האימפרשן, עם הוויז'ן, אין יותר מאושר ממני.
Well, it's a story that continues beyond 150 years, and I think that's cause for a l'chaim. L'chaim.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. It's set to be hot and sunny again this weekend. Temperatures sitting tonight at 65 Fahrenheit in the north, 72 in the center, and 79 in the south, or 18, 22, and 26 degrees Celsius, respectively. Then over the weekend, you can expect pretty stable heat across the country, with highs averaging 95 degrees Fahrenheit in the north, 86 in the center, and a sweltering 103 in the south, or 35, 30, and 39 degrees Celsius. And now before we go, of course, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.45 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.